Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast. This is two podcasts in one where we dive into tons of interesting books and stories, and another where we dive into tons of interesting topics. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. So today, okay, let's learn all about the Mayfly. Yes, if you're thinking, why do they call it the Mayfly? It's because it flies in May. And yeah, it appears in May. If I told you, how about an insect that lives in the water for 2 years, just hanging out as a baby, not even going to school, and then all of a sudden it becomes an adult and it lives for a day? Well, you're talking about the Mayfly. And I really do think there's two people out there. One that know about mayflies, and the other has no idea about mayflies, and I was one of them. Again, I'm here in Jersey. I don't have exposure to mayflies, so we went up to Cleveland to visit my daughter-in-law's family. An amazing, wonderful, fantastic family, and we were there for the baptism of our second granddaughter, Audrey. It took us 10 hours almost driving from North Jersey out to Cleveland. That was all day Friday. We get out there, it's Saturday. Mrs. O'Keefe sleeps in. I get up early. I can't sleep in. So it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I go exploring, and I gotta get some coffee. Go down. It's Cleveland, and the suburbs of Cleveland, as you may know, is right along Lake Erie. And I am literally driving down Lake Road, which is parallel to the shore of Lake Erie, and you can smell the water, and you can feel the breeze coming off. It was a beautiful morning. So I need my coffee. Where I was mostly residential, and I pull into the first gas station, and they have everything there except no coffee. Are you kidding me? Where can I get some? Go down the street about another mile. There'll be a Sunoco gas station down there. You can get your coffee down there. Okay. I pull in, and I'm about to walk into this little food mart right there at the gas station. And when I tell you, there are insects. There are clearly flies. They are literally sticking to the windows of this gas station. They are covered. And I look down, and they're all over the concrete floor. I'm like practically stepping on them. I'm like, what is going on here? I was like, do I really want to continue getting my coffee here? I go in, I get the coffee, I go back out. And I was like, no, I got to ask somebody. I said, a guy walks in. I said, I'm sorry. Listen, I'm from Jersey. What's up? What are these insects? Who are these flies? Oh, those are mayflies. So he's like, of course they're mayflies. Well, of course I asked more questions, and he proceeds to tell me. Google it, look at the picture of what these mayflies look like. They are scary looking. They're not your typical little housefly that, is only an inch or two long. They're like 5 or 6 inches long, and half of them is this really long tail, which is scary looking. And it's not attractive looking insect. Not that any insects are attractive looking, but this one is pretty scary looking. And what I end up finding out is, you live in this part of Cleveland in the suburbs right along Lake Erie, and you will get swarmed by these insects in this time of year. And clearly that is what happened recently. Prior to me arriving, I didn't see them flying. They were just stuck literally to the windows of this gas station. As scary as they look, they won't hurt a fly. Yeah, they won't hurt another fly, but they also won't hurt us at all. They don't sting. They don't bite at all. And I mentioned that they live a day. They can live just a couple hours. At the most, they'll live 2 days. And how can this happen? Why is this happening? Poor little mayfly. Well, they have no mouth. They can't eat. And that's all because they have no way of digesting any food. They don't eat. They literally become an adult, and then, their purpose in life is to start a family right away, but then they're saying goodbye. Dad says goodbye right away. Mom stays a little bit longer. She lays her eggs. But then, there's no family get-togethers around the TV or just kind of hanging and spending some time together. It's hi and then bye, and then, you end up spending time as a baby in the water, hanging out between the rocks, and that is the Mayfly's life. Now, I went out to Cleveland here. This is when this podcast is released, is the very end of June 2026. But as I'm doing more research and talking to people, people actually will wash their cars before driving because the windshield can literally get coated with these mayflies. Road crews will go out with their street sweepers because millions of these mayflies die overnight, and it actually becomes a hazard driving. Like I mentioned, obviously they're stuck on the windows of the gas station I happen to be in, but just, waking up and going out to your car, they're stuck all over your car. Clearly it's an invasion, and it happens this time, late spring, early summer. It belongs to one of the oldest group of insects that are still alive today. They were around over 300 million years ago, long before the dinosaurs actually were walking around. Today's mayflies, their wingspan, they're only about a half an inch to an inch long tops. You may actually not even see them originally if you just, like I did when I just walked up and saw them. But back in prehistoric times, their wingspans were actually 2 feet across. So those wings are like really, you look up close and they're almost like stained glass. They're so beautiful and unique. They actually have 2 or 3 really long thread-like tails that I mentioned. Up close, it looks like one, but they extend from the end of their body, and they're delicate, they're long, and their whole body is actually very slender. It's not a body that's thick or wide at all. Now, I mentioned here outside Cleveland that they end up appearing in May, but it's not always in every location that they appear in late spring. Especially down in the south, they can hatch earlier, so those males may appear, again, depending upon where you are, along the riverbeds, along lakes, along streams, but they can appear in early spring. Lake Erie happens to be famous for the mayflies appearing because they live in the shallow water near the shore. They actually need very clean, oxygen-rich water. In other words, if you have a lot of these mayflies, you know that the ecosystem is healthy, there's no pollution, you got clean water. Now, when they start the family, the female returns to the water. Some of these species gently land on the surface. Others dip their tip of their abdomen into the water while they're flying. Some crash onto the surface and release their eggs before dying. A female, listen to this, may lay anywhere from several hundred to nearly 10,000 eggs depending upon the species. The eggs sink to the bottom. Soon the tiny baby mayflies hatch. Those young insects, the baby insects, are called nymphs. And unlike butterflies, which have caterpillars, mayfly skips the caterpillar stage. Instead, they hatch looking like miniature underwater adults. So this couple-year period that I talk about their whole life being as babies, well, the nymphs crawl along the bottom of the lakes, the rivers, and the streams. And depending upon the species, they could actually live not just 2 years. It could be 1 year, it could be 3 years, because believe it or not, there's 3,000 species of mayflies. When they're under the water, believe it or not, they can shed their skin over and over, sometimes 20 or 30 times. Well, they got plenty of time to do that over the course of a couple of years. And unlike fish, right? These insects, they just don't grow larger. their hard outer skeleton doesn't stretch. So every time they get a little bit bigger, they kind of split open their old skin and curl out wearing a brand new one. It's interesting. Their whole life is down there as these nymphs, but yet they're going through this little tiny metamorphosis. They breathe underwater using delicate feathery gills that are located on the sides of their abdomen. If you actually look closely at a mayfly nymph, you will see like they're like little tiny fans, these gills. Now, they're eating all the time. Again, we'd mentioned when they're adults, no, they don't eat. But as babies, they're sitting between those rocks and they're munching on algae, decaying leaves, all kinds of bacteria. You name the junk food. To them, it's not junk. It's just tasty. Now, here's something that really is interesting, and it actually, believe it or not, if you're an insect expert, it surprises a lot of these scientists. Most winged insects shed their skin for the final time before becoming adults, not mayflies. After they leave the water, there's this interesting stage called a subimago. Fly fishermen actually call this stage a dun. The dun has this dull-looking wings, and it really isn't fully mature. It flies into nearby trees, bushes, buildings, or really anything vertical. Then something remarkable happens. It sheds its skin one more time. Out comes the fully mature adult. Fly fishermen call this stage the spinners. The spinners have clear, shiny wings, a slimmer body, and it's ready to start a family. So just so it's clear, when I walked into that gas station and I saw all of these insects, all of these mayflies just hanging out at the window of the gas station, this was the stage between the dun and the spinner stage. They were basically shedding their skin for a second time, and I could see this because it seemed like half of them were like white, and literally at that moment, that's what they were doing. And as the person that was originally cluing me in on this, they were basically saying, yeah, they're just molting and they're just shedding their skin all the time here. And in fact, that first dun stage where it sheds its skin can only take a couple minutes until the wings are actually able to have it fly away. It's dry enough. Those wings are dry enough. And then when it's hanging onto something vertical, and it doesn't need to be the windows of a gas station, it could be the side of a building, a telephone pole, a fence. I mean, clearly also what attracted them to the gas station here would have been the bright lights, like most insects are attracted to bright lights. But here's the point. Only 10 or 20 minutes, they're resting and they're hanging out, and then they molt again. That second time, and that's when they're the spinner. This is very unique for living winged insects. Mayflies are the only ones that molt or shed their skin after they've already learned to fly. Fly fishermen love mayflies. Why? Because trout absolutely love them. As soon as the mayflies begin emerging, trout rise to the surface. Sometimes you'll see dozens of circular ripples spreading across the stream. Each ripple marks a trout eating another insect. The fish know this feast doesn't last long. They actually gorge themselves. That's why fly fishermen try to imitate mayflies so carefully. Artificial flies are tied to resemble every stage of the insect's life. Some imitate underwater nymphs, some imitate the emerging duns, and some imitate the floating spinners. Successful fly fishermen spend years learning exactly which species are hatching on a particular river at a particular hour. Remember when I said there's two people in this world, one that know who mayflies are and and the other person that doesn't know them? Well, clearly, if you know mayflies, you are a fisherman, specifically a fly fisherman. I mean, how about this? Matching the hatch is one of the oldest sayings in fly fishing. It means using an artificial fly that looks exactly like the insects the fish are eating right now. When you hear anglers talking about the Hendrickson hatch, the sulfurs, or the hex hatch, they're referring to different species of mayflies emerging. I mean, who else eats mayflies? You name it. Fish, period. Bluegills, bass, perch, trout, salmon. Birds catch them in midair. Swallows, gulls, bats feast on them after sunset. Dragonflies, no doubt. Spiders catch them in their webs. Frogs, they love them too. And even turtles sometimes grab them from the surface. Millions of mayflies eventually obviously die and fall back into the water. Their bodies decompose and return valuable nutrients to the lake. An entire life cycle of mayflies keeps everything healthy. Nothing is wasted. They live on every continent, not just near Lake Erie and obviously in the Ohio River Valley. They are everywhere, and they are so fascinating and so interesting. So the next time you're looking for some trivia, hey, give me an insect that lives 2 years as a baby and then only 1 day as an adult, and it can't eat as an adult, has no stomach and no mouth, and you have a mayfly. Friends, thanks for joining me on this journey learning all about mayflies. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group. We have a YouTube channel. Refer your friends and family to me. Hit that plus button in the top right-hand corner so you can subscribe to the podcast. Always enjoy the ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform of your choosing. Until next time, have fun and keep learning.